thank you for coming. Thank you for being here again. Last week we talked about teamwork. You can't make it without the team. It wouldn't happen without all of us. A little recap. Everybody knows that's here. What we have been talking about. It's all familiar faces. So we know we've been talking about our works and our actions, and we talked about faith without works is dead, is what James was saying, and not that it takes works to be saved, but once you are saved or once you are a Christian, then your actions should seem as such. You should be doing things that Christians should do, or even want to do that. So how we're going to do that, and in doing all that, we're going to know God more. We're going to become closer to Him. If you act more like Him, you become closer to Him. Just like if you had a friend, if I wanted to act like my friend, well, we want to do all the same things together all the time, and we become more together and know each other more and like each other more and be around together. Same thing works with God. And then last week we talked about one of those actions, one of those things that we can do to know God more, one of those actions that we can do to act like a Christian. We talked about in order to do all this, it takes teamwork, is what we talked about. And we talked about the team, we talked about a lot of different things, and without the team it wouldn't work. And I thought about this morning, just this weekend, Friday. I got a washer and dryer that's, I guess, is going bad, apparently. So we had a washer, and it's messed up before, and I fixed it, and the dryer's messed up before, and I fixed it, and I just want to put all paint on how much maybe the washer and dryer, right? And you can buy cheap washer dryers, but then you're doing the same thing that I'm doing right now with these two. So to each his own, you can do what you can, but, well, I'd like to have a halfway decent set, one that I wouldn't have to work on or something, anyway. So, but I'm looking at that, and so this time the washer's going bad, and when you turn it on and the cold water's supposed to come out, there's no cold water coming out into the basin. It just barely dribbles out, literally. So we thought it might be where I live up on a hill, I have to have a pump house, and the water comes to that pump, and then I have a pressure switch. When the pressure's too low, it tells that pump to kick on, right? Then the pump kicks on to give more pressure at my house. So, of course, immediately we think, well, the pressure's gone bad or something, you know. And those of you know, I just moved in this place not too long ago, so I'm dealing with all this pump and pressure stuff for the first time. But anyway, it comes to find out that the washer itself had some problems, and then we had a load halfway done in there. And so she went ahead and spun it, so it'd spin that water out so it wouldn't just be sitting there. And so now you're thinking about what you're going to do. Well, it does no good to stick that in the dryer because it ain't been cleaned yet. Dryer still works great right now. Dryer works, the dryer would have dried the clothes, but it wouldn't have cleaned the clothes. You need a washer to clean the clothes. And the other problem that I had was the washer was washing fine, but the dryer wouldn't dry. This happened about 3 months ago. The reason was all the lint trap was caught up. Understand? I know I'm applying this to life, but the lint trap was all clogged up on that dryer to the point to, where you couldn't just clear the lint. It was all in the machine itself, and the pipe and all that. Well, then it can't work, so it won't dry. Well, now we wash real good, but can't dry. It takes a team to wash them clothes. The washer and the dryer together get the clothes washed and clean. One working really well ain't going to do no good for us because your clothes still be dirty. Or if the other one works, wouldn't do no good because they'd be washed clean, but it'd still be wet. Wouldn't be fit to wear it. We talked about teamwork. We talked about without all that, none of this happens. So we went on a whole list of things that this church specifically does that don't happen without our team. I wrote down, how we live reveals what we believe. So that's where the faith without works comes into play there. How we live reveals what we believe. If I live like I'm dying, lost, and going to hell, that's probably what I'm doing. Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe you could be backslid or something. We're not getting into all the particulars, but if I live like a hellion, I'm probably a hellion. Right? If I live like a Christian, I'm not saying perfect now. Let's be real. But if I live like a Christian, well, maybe I'm a Christian. So the way you live will determine that faith without works. James 4:17. This is getting into what we're going to talk about today. James 4:17 says, therefore to him that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not, to him it is a sin. So if you know the right things to do, which has a lot to do with your upbringing and your mom and dad, and things like that, the difference between right and wrong, well, if you know the difference between right and wrong, and you decide to do the wrong thing, or if you choose, what we're going to talk about today, if you choose to do the wrong thing, well then you'll sin. That's a sin. That's what the Bible says. Right? There's many hundreds of things that are sins. I understand that. But living in sin if you're choosing the wrong decision. Choosing to do the wrong things. He said, therefore to him that knoweth to do good. I know what the right thing is to do. And doeth it not, to him it is sin. James 4:17 is right there. So then I wrote down here, you have a choice, and the choices you make will determine the outcome. And choices are daily. And choices are all the time that you have to make regarding your life. And today, when we're talking about, of course, we're talking about our Christian life, but the decisions that you make are not only going to affect you, but they're going to affect the people around you. They're going to affect your children, and they're going to affect your wives, or whatever the case may be in your life, or husbands. You know, they're going to affect other people. The decisions you make, and sometimes they can be catastrophic. In the stories we're going to learn about today and read about, it was catastrophic. And I'm sure they didn't see this coming when they first made that choice for his family that man will talk about today. He probably didn't see that that would be the outcome of the decision. However, that was the outcome of the wrong decision. Make the right choice is what we call it today. And you can think about to your own self, and there's plenty of lessons, especially in a kids group. This would be the time to talk about maybe specific choices kids will make. They'd be all apt and wanting to talk about things that they've done. And a lot of times younger people, or especially children, but they haven't even realized the concept yet of how their actions and your decision could affect you yet. Because for the most part, they're not making their own decisions. They're relying on their mom and dad, which is another key important why the mom and dad's decisions should be the right decisions. But you can think about some things in your life where you've made the wrong decision. And think about the consequences you did. I don't want to know. I'm sure there's plenty. I know there's one that I can give here. So I know there's people in this room, it's including myself, some wrong decisions I made that have turned out catastrophic. Or that turned out bad. I dealt with my consequences. While you think about that, we'll go ahead and pray for Larry Mary if you don't mind. I'll just up to prayer.
Oh, gracious Lord, Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning. We thank you for the chance in the church. We pray that you heard all the praise the Lord this morning. We pray that you give the knowledge and the words and needs. I pray that you all other sense of life amongst this church this morning. We're doing the morning worship service, Lord, do with Jeremy, with these choir, and preacher the hour. Amen.
Amen. Sometimes it is tough to make the right choice. Sometimes just making the right choice isn't as easy as what I'm talking about it being today. Sometimes there could be peer pressure, or sometimes there could be other family members involved, or sometimes there could be reasons that you might come up with in your mind from some bad things that might turn out of the right decision. Sometimes it takes some backbone. The reason I thought about that, and even what brought this message on, was I have about a 150-foot ditch to dig in my house. And I have dug 50 foot of it. And I'm digging in a French drain, so it's about 1.5 foot deep, something like that. It's about 1.5 foot wide. And you know, going uphill, whatever, around some driveways and the garage and stuff that I have. Well, I can run equipment, and I do that for railroad all the time, but I've recently found out that in some of the areas where I'm going to be digging, there is some electrical lines and some gas lines that run to my neighbors that are higher up on the hill. Now, and I could probably do some more in-depth research to try to find out how deep they are, but instead of doing all that, I just see the job needs to be done, and I'm going to have to do it, whether I got to do it by hand or not. So I see the job that's laid out in front of me is I got to have this ditch done. And it would be easier with a piece of equipment, but given all the other stuff that's in the ground, and places that I don't really know, actually. I just know a vicinity. That leads me to believe that I'm going to have to dig it by hand. So now I understand why I have to dig it by hand, and the reason that I'm digging is because there's a little water problem. The problem is that the hillside, water comes downhill. It's the way it works. And then when it gets to a flat spot, where it's going to lay there in that soil. And if the soil is not soft enough, deep enough, in order to take all of that precipitation, all of that water, well, then your soil becomes wet. And then it becomes standing water, things like that. Okay? So I know that I need a drain of some sort, fresh drain, that's got to be put in order to fix the problem. In order to fix the problem, I can't use a piece of equipment. I'm going to have to do it by hand, whether I like to do it or not. But my outcome for all my hard labor will be worth it. So the decision, and the problem is, or the thing that needs to be decided is, are we going to fix the water problem or not at my house? That's not a big problem. You know, 10 guys will have to show up tomorrow and say, well, the house is going over the hill. Not even close to that. Neither here nor there, it is a place where it is a nuisance to me. Now I need to fix it. And yesterday I had dug 50 foot of it. I just dug it. I didn't put no pipe in it. I didn't cover it back up, or I finished. All I've done was dug 50 foot of it. Now, I'm not complaining, but the problem is the water needs to be fixed. So then the decision is, well, I'd like to use a piece of equipment. I want to find out that there's all these problems in there where I can't use the equipment. So now I have to choose whether or not I want to do it or not. So yeah, I choose. I'm going to say, well, the right thing to do to fix the water is do it by hand. So then as I started doing it, that's what brought this thing on. I get about halfway through my little part I wanted to do today. It was 50 feet was my goal. And I'm swinging this mattock, and then I dig it out. That's how I do it. I swing the mattock, dig it out. Swing the mattock, dig it out. Mattock is a thing with it. Whatever. Yeah, y'all know. It helps you dig stuff. But I'm swinging this mattock, and I dig it out. Swing it out, dig it out. Halfway through it, I said, man, this takes more work than it's done, man. This takes a little bit of backbone, this decision does. This decision was hard on me. This decision I made right here is killing me, man. What I thought. But it's still the right decision. This decision was hard on me to dig that ditch. And it's not over with yet. I still got 100 more feet to go. Okay? And I've got to dig this ditch, and it's going to kill me personally, right? It's physically strong. It's hard on me. It's easy just to say let it go, but the right decision is to fix the water problem.
Yeah, you're right.
And the outcome will be worth all the hard work. Once I get all that done and put that pipe in there and cover it back up, and it can drain off, and then now there's no wet standing spot there in my yard or whatever the case, it'll be worth it, right?
Yeah.
Same way with your life decisions. Sometimes you're faced with some things where you know that should be done. It's not I have to. I don't have to do nothing. I mean, it's been like that for years. The people who lived there for me was there 37 years. They built a house, so that's never been a problem with them. But it's a problem to me, right? So I see that it's a problem that needs to be fixed. Life decisions are the same way. And you decide, man, that decision right there is going to be hard on me to make. But we don't look at the outcome. And then I thought about while I'm standing in that ditch, I thought we need to choose the right thing. And sometimes choosing the right thing takes some backbone. It takes some hard to do work to get it done. Then as I thought about that, and if I think about the 100 more feet I got to go, man, I'm having a bad time digging that ditch. But if I just swing that mattock 6 inches at a time, and swing that mattock to the left 6 inches at a time, and one shovelful at a time, just like Dave talked about a few weeks ago or a month ago or whatever it was. We talked about being a successful Christian one cup of water at a time. He was talking about I can get that ditch done one shovelful at a time.
Yeah, right.
Whether it takes me a week or two or whatever, you know, given my work and everything else, I can get it done. And life decisions can be dealt with the same way, and one decision at a time, working at it, one thing at a time, you can get it done. I tell you, we're going to read about some bad choices. This is what we're going to read about. There is a man that's involved with Genesis 19 is where we'll start out. Genesis 19, 1 through 29 is what we'll read. So there is a flip side of this story, which we're going to go back in this story as we go. I'm going to tell you ahead of time, and we're going to start at the end, and we're going to work our way back. And at the beginning, there was some decisions made, and there is a good decision made by one man. He went on about his life. Abraham is the one that made the right decision, and he did make something wrong, but in this certain circumstance, he chose the right decision to follow God. He built an altar to God, and he was blessed for it. But the other man is who we're going to read about today. We're talking about bad decisions today. Let's go ahead and read it. Start in Genesis 19. And there came 2 angels to Sodom at even. And Lot, that's a guy's name there, Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night. And wash your feet, and y'all rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, Nay. But we will abide in the streets all night. And he pressed upon them gently, urged them, and they turned into him, and entered into his house. He made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, and we're in Sodom and Gomorrah here. I don't know if you know some history about that. We'll talk a little bit maybe. But, before they lay down, the men of the city, which this was a bad city, I guess you could say. Even the men of Sodom, this is the men of the Sodom of the city, compassed the house around. Both old and young, all of them, and people from every quarter, and they called unto Lot. Lot's the man we're talking about today, and said unto him, Where are the men which came into thee this night? They wanted them, bring them unto us, that we may know them. We just won't get into it, I guess. And shut the door after him, and Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, he's talking to them, do not so wickedly. Don't do that to these men, these servants of God, these angels that they was. Behold, now I have 2 daughters. This is Lot's remedy for the situation. Which we're talking about bad decisions today. We're talking about Lot's bad decisions. The decisions I pointed out for Lot that I wrote down in these 2 pages today, is not even this one, but here is a decision or a choice that Lot's ignorance thought would work. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which I have not known a man. Let me, I pray you, bring them unto you. So now you understand what they mean when he says known. And now you understand before, when the men come unto them other men into the house, he said that we may know them. Okay. I have 2 daughters which have not known a man. Let me, that doesn't mean they don't have a male friend. Okay. I pray you bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. This was his remedy. Only unto these men do nothing. Leave these men alone. You can have my daughters to do with what you will. And therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. They said again, This one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be judged, be a judge. And now will we deal worse with thee than with them? And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut the door, these 2 men, the angels. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house trying to get in, break it in, both small and great, just every one, so that they wearied themselves to find the door, door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. They blinded them men, then the men went over out blind. And the men said unto Lot, Hast thou here any besides, son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. He's telling them, you're going to have to get you and all your family and get out of here. For these 2 angels said, We will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake unto his son-in-laws, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. Made a big joke. And when the morning rose, then the angels hastened to Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which the son-in-law thought it was just a big joke, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. He told him, Get up and get out of here, man, we ain't kidding. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters. The Lord being merciful unto them, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. And it came to pass that when they had brought them forth abroad, and that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest thou be consumed. In modern day English, that says, Do not turn back here. Do not want for things that are still here. Right. Yeah. Do not turn around and look upon the destruction that we're about to do. Don't even stay in the hill where you can see it. Keep going until you get in the mountains. If not, you're going to be burned up. Yeah. You're going to be consumed. And they understood very well. When we read it, we're kind of like consumed and all these words and plain, escape, and all these words that we don't normally use in our English language. Well, that's what they're telling. Get out and don't turn back and don't look for the things still here. Don't worry about your house and your car and your clothes. They're all going to be gone. Just go and be doing. That's what they told them very plainly. This was instruction. Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my Lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast shown unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some evil take me and I will die. Behold, now this city is near to flee into, and it is a little one. Now he said, I can't go there. I need to go to this city. Oh, let me escape thither. It is not, is it not a little one? Question mark. and my soul shall live. And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city, for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zor. Okay? Not going to destroy Zor. The sun was risen upon the earth, when Lot entered into Zor, then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. This was the city they told him to get out of, that's burned up. And he overthrew those cities like the angel said he would. And all the plain, where they told him to get out of, and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. And here's a verse that I've underlined. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up, she made a decision there. We're talking about choices. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord. Now, we'll go back in this story eventually in my message. But, so Abraham, making the right decision earlier, rose up in a place where he stood before the Lord, and he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain of the hill. And lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass that God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrown because of Abraham. When he overthrew the cities in which the Lord dwelt, Lot dwelt, in which Lot dwelt. It's dangerous to turn back. That's what I read.
Right, that's it.
And we talked about choices. We talked about me digging this ditch, right? Why I'm digging this ditch, and what needs to be done. It's got to be done. And it's sometimes the decision's going to be harder on me. We're going to go back and find the easy decision that Lot made to put him in that predicament even to begin with. But sometimes it's dangerous to turn back, so we keep pressing forward. And I talked about my story of me digging this ditch here recently. It takes the backbone. Philippians 3:13 and 14 says, Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press towards the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. In Philippians here, a man is making a statement that he is going to choose to move forward into the calling of God. He's going to choose to leave the things behind. In our passage of so far, Lot's wife didn't choose to go forward. She chose to turn around. She chose to look back.
Yeah.
She chose to want the things above. And she paid her consequence for it. The penman says, I press towards the mark for the prize. There is a reward for doing the right thing and making the right decisions. Even your life in general in this world itself will benefit from making right decisions.
Yeah.
George Jones, whether or not a Christian or not, I do not know, but George Jones had a very popular song called Choices. And it became a very big karaoke song or a bar hopping song. But if you listen to the words, he's talking about the choices he made. Now he is paying for those decisions, and he is living and dying with the choices that he made. Those lyrics for the word. This was a man, whether Christian or not, understood that the bad decisions he made, and he talked about drinking and everything when he was younger in the song, he's dealing with them now. Things that he didn't think mattered. It's tough sometimes, but you will reap the benefits of your good choices. Can you put up 2 Chronicles 15:7 real quick, please? I said it's tough sometimes, but you will reap the benefits of your good choices. 15:7 says, Be ye strong, therefore, and let not your hands be weak, for your work shall be rewarded. They was talking to kings here, but neither here nor there. It's talking about it ain't going to be easy to always make the right decision. Don't be weak, be strong. You reap the benefits. And we talked about it, so that was a decision that his wife made. His wife made it, she dealt with her consequences. And it consumed her, and it killed her. And her one bad decision took away any other chances to make that decision right. Her one bad decision ruined any other chances that she could get to make it right. Sometimes we don't get 15, 16, 17 chances at something.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Sometimes you get one chance, one time to hit the mark for the prize. Philippians was talking about. You got one chance. What decision will you make? What choice will you make? Sometimes also your family can also benefit from your good decisions. Of course, I think of kids, my own kids, because now that I have some. We're not talking about good decisions today. We're talking about bad decisions. But they can also suffer from your consequences, what I talked about. Your family sure can benefit from your good decisions, and they can sure suffer from your wrong decisions. Sometimes your choices can lead to the destruction of your own family and friends. You say, what do you mean? They're grown up enough to make their own decisions. And yes, you're right. They are grown up, maybe, most of us, some of us are old enough to make their own decisions, and they'll make it, and it's up to them if they want to mess it up. I'm going to do right and let them do wrong. And that's perfectly understandable. But let's look at our story here. And then we talk about Lot's little wife. Yes, she's old enough to make her own decision. And yes, she did. Yes, she was the only one that got turned to pillar of salt. Nobody else did. It was her own false decision. Let's try to find out why she got put in those decisions to begin with. We'll go back in this story now to set the place where we come from. We'll go to Genesis 13. And I'll read the chapter of Genesis 13. Your choices can affect the decision of others. There was a decision here that affected Lot's wife's decision when she got turned into a pillar of salt. You can blame it all on her. You can say it's all her fault. She made her own decision. She did. Let's find out how she got put in that predicament. The story is not of his wife. My story is of Lot today. Lot is the one making the bad decisions, and his wife made a bad decision because of it. And Abram went up out of Egypt, and Abram is Abraham, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. So now they're together. And Abram was very rich in cattle and silver and in gold, and he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai, unto the place of the altar, which he had made there at the first, and there Abram called on the name of the Lord at this altar. Verse 5, and Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great. So they had a lot of things. And if my memory serves me correctly, this is the first place where in the Bible we're talking about wealth and things and having things. It's in Genesis 13. But anyway, they're talking about how they have a lot of stuff, a lot of things going on, a lot of people, a lot of family, a lot of cattle, and they're getting in each other's way. It says, herds of tent, the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdsmen of Abram's cattle and the herdsmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanite, the Perizzites, dwelled in the land. And Abram said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen. He's trying to come up with a good solution to the problem. For we be brethren. You know, we're brethren, so let's not fight. There's got to be what a fix is. It's not the whole land before thee, is not. Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I'll go to the right. And if thou depart, go to the right hand, then I'll go to the left. Abram's just being a good man. He understands there's plenty for all of us to have. Let's spread out a little bit. Whichever way you go, I'll go the other way. Don't care. He has no decision in the matter. That's right. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld. So here is the decision time that Lot gets to make right here. This is the decision that turns Sarah into a pillar of salt. One of them. So Lot gets an opportunity to make a decision of where he's going to go now. I guess for the meantime, or for the time past, he had been running around with Abram. Wherever Abram would go, he would go. If Abram would go here and make an altar to the Lord, well, he'd just go there because he figured that was a good idea. So far, it had been working all right. But now he gets to make his own decision. Instead of making altars to the Lord, just like Abram did, this is what Lot thought would be a good idea. Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. It was before that time. Even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, and thou comest unto the sword. Verse 11, then Lot chose, is what I wrote down, or what I underlined. Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves, the one from the other. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan. Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent towards Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. The Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art, northward and southward, and eastward and westward, for all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and it to thy seed forever. This is the benefits that I've been talking about in the verses before, that a good decision can make. And I will make thy seed in the dust of as of the dust of the earth, so that if any man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, and I will give it unto thee. And Abram removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. It didn't say anything about when Lot chose to go pitch his tents toward Sodom that he made an altar to the Lord. Lot's decision was a bad decision. Lot's decision was and there's other verses that talk about, so now it says that he pitches his tent toward Sodom. Then it talks about him at Sodom and the gate. Then there's other verses that says when he dwelled in Sodom. He just kept getting closer and closer to those bad decisions. And those bad decisions is what wrecked his family's life. Yes, she's grown up to make her own decision and turn back and want that. Yes, it's her fault, and that's why she turned up the salt. But now Lot's got to live with it. Lot has to understand because of the decision that I made so many years ago, which was 3 chapters ago. For all those decisions, now my family has to deal with those decisions. And I've got to live with it. And I'm not saying that every single thing, I'm not saying if a family member goes awry that it's because of something bad you did. I'm not saying it. If the Lord is saying that to you, that might be something else. I'm not Him. But I am just saying bad decisions will have their consequences. Yes, sir. And bad decisions, if you're lucky, won't have an effect on your children or your other family. Because most of the time that they will. If I wrote down, if Lot would have never chose Sodom and Gomorrah, then his wife would have never been turned to a pillar of salt. So if he would have never chose to go to Sodom, she would have never had to make the decision to turn back and want to go there. You understand what I'm saying? If she was never put in the position where he had to make a decision, maybe she wouldn't have made it. Maybe if he would have made the right decisions from the beginning, then his family wouldn't be suffering from their bad decisions following in his footsteps. She was only doing what she had watched Lot do. She was only doing what her husband was doing before her. There's other sins of their daughters later on in chapter 16 or 17, I believe. We won't get into that, but the daughters made the same dumb decisions. Just like Lot did. I'm not saying every single circumstance that happens bad is because of the head of the household, but in this story, you better believe the bad decisions of Lot is what became the bad decisions of his wife, which became the bad decisions of his children. They're only doing what they're taught. They're only doing what they see. Your family, and especially children, I know if young people's in here, it wouldn't be much for them, but your children are going to do what you do. They're going to look up to you. Especially in the younger lives, and if they see you making nothing but dumb decisions, well, maybe they might think it's not a big deal. You can't rely on them being so smart and better than you that they'll make the right decision, because you didn't.
You're right.
You understand? I'm not picking on anybody. I don't even know if anybody's making some bad decisions. I know that I have in my life. The decisions that you make daily will have an outcome. Good decisions, normally good outcome. Bad decisions, normally bad outcome. And if it's your own neck that's not worth saving, then maybe you should try to save the necks of your family. That's what I'm saying. It's easy for me to put myself in and make some dumb decisions, especially in the Marines. I made a whole lot of dumb decisions because it didn't matter to me. I just ran them loose, bullet, shot out of a cannon. But as I get older, then you see maybe some things you might put your mom and dad through, and some things, especially since I got a wife and got kids. It's very important to make the right decisions. And I'm lucky that some of those decisions didn't ruin everything for me.
There you go. Amen. That's all right.
She became the statue of decision for Lot. Now that pillar of salt, and I know we watched the movies and stuff, and it shows that woman where it's turned into a pillar of salt, and it's like you're standing there, and I don't know if that's what it looked like. I'm sure that it could. But it was her outline and everything. I remember that old movie, that she turned into salt. And if it stayed or if it didn't stay for a while, I don't know. It's just blew the salt. I don't know. If she did turn into that statue, what that movie showed for a little bit while the wind was blowing, that was the statue of decision. That's what he had to live with. She was one of the things that Lot reaped for his decision, choosing to go pitch his tent towards Sodom. His daughter's the same. I won't get into that again. His decision was not to serve God. In the story that the Lord put out there for us, it was the difference between a man that wanted to do right and serve God and the man that didn't. And the outcome of the man that didn't and the man that did is the end of the story. Abraham Lincoln said, this was after he heard a remark. They said that he actually overheard this remark. But I don't know if it was at some rally or things that they did then, but it was during the war. I guess he had heard a remark. Someone said that Abraham Lincoln hoped, was the key word, hoped the Lord was on his side. I guess after Abraham Lincoln heard this remark, or overheard it, maybe he talked about it later, I don't know the time frame, but when he heard that remark, he said, I am not at all concerned about that. For I know that the Lord is always on the side of the right. It's my constant anxiety and prayer that I and this nation should be on the Lord's side. See, I'm not too worried about if the Lord is on my side or not. I already know the Lord is on the right side. The Lord can't be on the left and the right, on the wrong and the good and the bad. The Lord's always going to be right. What Abraham Lincoln said, it's my job to make sure that I'm on His side, not that He's on mine.
Right. Yeah.
With your bad decisions, whether how good Christian you are or not, God is not in on your bad decisions.
That's right.
There's no way that you can trick a prayer to make it seem like your dumb decision is what God would have you do.
Yeah. Good track.
That's what Abraham Lincoln was talking about during the war. He said, I'm not concerned about if I hope the Lord's on my side or not. I'm concerned with that we ought to make sure we're on His side.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Joshua said, choose you this day.
Yeah.
Preacher just talked about that not too long ago. And I have a primitive wood thing in my dining room, you know, that says, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And on the back of that, I wrote out the rest of the verse and stuff. But even that, he says, choose you this day. Choose, make a choice. I'm not going to repeat the same sermon, but that's what we're talking about today, is bad choices. Make the right choices. Because if you're not going to suffer for it, someone else in your family might, just like Lot's family had. That's it. We'll pray on the first door on the right, I'm sure, with Larry. You move, James. You move.
Would you like turn around when I do that? I'm laughing at it. I think you like this and you're spinning around it all.
You're talking this morning, you know.
I tell you what, I've never had many choices.
Life's full of them.
I can I'll let you rock. I'll tell you what, I'll put up on there. You better if I get it. Now, hold the gun over here and you can all of it.
So you might put your car behind the house.
I don't want that. I never made out of it. And I didn't have
Good side.
I said, something said calamine love there and try to get Hi, how are you? How you doing? Great. Great to see you.
James family, right on, y'all acting so happy, shouts and stuff.
It's like, oh, well,
They didn't know it was blood. Apparently.